Finally, you've got BIM for facility management. That is almost that last phase of utilizing BIM on the project. So what does it mean to use BIM for facility management? The owners today, owners of all kinds of buildings, are trying to figure out, what can I really do with this model? I'm receiving these models, they're beautiful, they've got a lot of information in them, not really knowing what to do with it. So of course, I'm going to check the model. So there's a validation and conditioning step. And I cannot emphasize this enough, that this is critical for you to be able to utilize the model for any reason. So that's the first step. Then what can I do with the model? I can extract asset data. So every piece of equipment has information, and that information is locked in the BIM model. I don't need to reproduce spreadsheets. I don't need to walk the site to create an inventory of the equipment that I have, because I already have that information in the BIM model. I can integrate it with my building management system, and I can also use it to manage my space. You'll notice here that it's not a 3D model that's managing my space, but these 2D drawings are produced from the model, and these spaces are brought into and imported from that model as well. So that's an example of how interoperability really supports the project team. How do I hand over the information from the model to the owner to be placed into the asset management platform? What kind of assets am I transferring? So first, a question that we get asked about a lot is, does this work only for buildings, or does it work for underground assets, horizontal work, underground utilities? It does work for underground utilities. So you can have both above grade and below grade assets. What do you need? You need to transfer information from the BIM environment, as I mentioned. There's a lot of technology out there. It's not only BIM. So there's also project management information systems that house the documents, the submittals, the O&M manuals. All of these have to be transferred. So this is a sample workflow. It does not have to be done this way, but this gives you a flavor of what does it really look like to transfer the information from a BIM environment and from the PMIS. So we're assuming here we've got different projects and they have BIM models. And we have a project management platform that has submittals, has all kinds of documents. These two will get transferred into BIM and PMIS. So you have to have some kind of integration here. A BIM integration and PMIS integration hold step, where that information is housed. Then you have to transfer that information into a format that your asset management platform understands. In this case, it could be COBie, which is an exchange format. So it's essentially, you could call it a spreadsheet that has a list of information, and it's in a specified format. So this is one of your products. And you can also export not just the data. So now I have a list. I have an equipment. I have what type of equipment it is, what system, is it electrical, is it mechanical, what type of manufacturer, what is the model number, what's the serial number, when it was installed. I have all kinds of data. I also need the geometry in a format that I can utilize. So Navisworks is a software. It could be in Navisworks. It could be in a platform agnostic format like IFC. So I'm exporting the geometry and I'm exporting the data. But I also need the documents. So I put the documents here in this repository, which could be something external completely, or it could remain to be the PMIS depending on what the owner decides to do. Then I'm going to take this product, which is the information. So here, this is the information. And I'm taking the geometry. And I'm going to import it into an asset management platform. Now, one commonly used asset management platform is Maximo, but there could be others. So I'm importing all this information into this asset management platform, and I will start configuring it to be utilized for whatever purpose I have. The other thing that you can do is there's information that's collected anyway. Do I have to collect information in the BIM model, then transfer it into an asset management platform? During the course of the project, there may be information that's collected anyway. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the model environment. And this is one example where there could be field staff. Once the equipment is installed, they go out on site and they start checking. What is my name of the equipment? So there's an equipment tag. All I need to do is make sure that that unique tag of the equipment is replicated in the model. So this piece of equipment has this tag, TRA. TRA is shown both on my model and on my data. And I'm making sure that this data is not only collected in a Word document like this one, but it's collected here. These are all fields. These are data fields that I can reuse. I can export it in Excel, I can export it in Word, I can export it in a database, I can export it in whatever format I want. I can even import it back into my model if I wanted to. So that way I'm making sure that there's a link between my information and my model, even if the information is housed in a different location than my model. Your Revit model or your BIM model cannot be a repository of everything in the world, but they have to be a mechanism for you to link the information to that modeling environment. The other use case is for space management. So what can I really do for space management? I can import all these different rooms. You see them color-coded right here, but all these different rooms were already objects in my model. They are objects that have parameters, that are the room names, that are the room numbers, that are the room use. So you can, if you look here, there's biology lab, there's physics lab, there's chemistry lab. That identifies what the space is. It also identifies some rules. So for example, flow of information. There's flow of information from one room to the next. This room has to avoid any adjacency to another type of room in the same floor. So I cannot have, I need to have all my physics labs on the same floor. I can check that automatically. So all this information is imported from the BIM model directly. I don't need to recreate it. And that's a very important point to focus on. What happens is sometimes these owners are receiving design drawings in hard copies and having to recreate these 2D environment drawings in their asset management platform or in the space management platform. Today, they do not need to do that. They can import that information readily from the BIM model. And that is of tremendous value, and not a lot of people are doing that. You can color code these spaces based on their use, based on their adjacency, based on the information, based on whether it's existing, completed, or under renovation, whether it exceeds the maximum occupancy or not. What is the maximum occupancy allowed? And you can tie that in the future to the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things means that I have things that are objects, real objects in these spaces that communicate with my internet, that communicate with my system. The thing itself communicates. So that thing could be a sensor on a chair. That thing could be a camera in the room that sends information directly back to my system. So that means I can directly know how many occupants are in that space right now in real time and check against the maximum occupancy of the space. And if the maximum occupancy of the space per codes is exceeded, it can give me an alert. That can apply for space. That can apply for the building management system integration. That can apply for communicating with that building management system to figure out whether I'm exceeding energy requirements. Is there a fire hazard? Is there a safety issue? All these things are made possible with that BIM integration with the facility management environment. We can also attach barcodes to these different pieces of equipment, whereby I need to, as facility staff, I need to go out and maintain these pieces of equipment. So I'll go out and walk, and then I'll find the piece of equipment that needs maintenance. But how can I log what needs maintenance and what that piece of equipment is? Typically, let's say you're advanced, you're going to have some kind of tablet, you pull out the tablet, and you try to find that piece of equipment based on some information that you have about location, what type of equipment, the building that you're in, and so on. You can all make that easier by having a QR code or a barcode or an RFID tag that you scan, and it pulls out the information automatically. You can take it further where that information is already tied to a BIM model or even to the environment like you see on the screen. Could be tied to a BIM model where you can see all these pieces of equipment, and it can highlight that piece of equipment, and it can show you, well, if you shut down this piece of equipment right now in order to maintain it, these are the other systems that will be affected. So that's that benefit of that link of information throughout the BIM model. That's that information that you need to get transferred from the BIM model, otherwise the owner loses all that effort that was put into developing that BIM model using the proper parameters. So again, you can see that the possibilities are endless.